In this video, we're going to talk about something that I'm sure everyone remembers that happened 5 years ago at the end of 2019 and into 2020, the coronavirus, or COVID-19. It changed our lives in ways we never expected. Among the many theories that emerged during this time, one of the most controversial and talked about was the idea that COVID might have escaped from a Chinese lab. Whether due to a lack of safety measures or human error during research, this theory quickly gained traction, sparking debates that continue today. We'll use Daniel Pipe's analysis tools to fact-check the claims, investigate where the information is coming from, and dive deeper into the theory, using psychological and sociological, cultural anthropology lenses. In this video, we'll take a closer look at the origins of the lab leak theory, explore its political and scientific implications, and analyze how misinformation has helped shape public perception. This theory didn't just appear out of nowhere. It started early, before lockdowns and before we had a clear understanding of the virus. In fact, one of the first public figures to suggest that COVID-19 could have leaked from a Chinese lab was Republican Senator Tom Cotton. Back in January 2020, he appeared on Fox News and raised the possibility that the virus could have originated from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. This was right at the beginning of the outbreak, and people were still trying to understand what was happening.
We need to really understand why these diseases keep coming out of China. I mean, we remember SARS and MERS, and now it's coronavirus. We've been told that this originated in an open seafood market, where you've got a market that you've got bats and cats and pigs and all sorts of animals all at once. But there is also speculation that perhaps it did not originate there. Tell us what you know.
Yeah, so Maria, here's what we do know. This virus did not originate in the Wuhan animal market. Epidemiologists who are widely respected from China, who have published a study in the international journal The Lancet, have demonstrated that several of the original cases did not have any contact with that food market. The virus went into that food market before it came out of that food market. So we don't know where it originated, but we do know that we have to get to the bottom of that. We also know that just a few miles away from that food market is China's only biosafety level 4 super laboratory that researches human infectious diseases. Now, we don't have evidence that this disease originated there, but because of China's duplicity and dishonesty from the beginning, we need to at least ask the question to see what the evidence says, and China right now is not giving any evidence on that question at all.
Senator Cotton wasn't alone in bringing up this theory, but he was one of the first to speak out publicly. His claims were quickly picked up and amplified by news outlets and social media, and before long, the theory gained a significant amount of attention. However, it was also met with skepticism and criticism from scientists and public health experts who pointed out the lack of concrete evidence to support the lab leak claim. Despite this, the theory continued to grow, fueled by political rhetoric and fear. The idea that COVID-19 could have come from a Chinese lab fit neatly into a narrative for those looking to frame China as the bad guy. In the context of growing tensions between China and the United States, this theory became a convenient tool for political leaders and media outlets with the interest of portraying China in a negative light. It didn't help that there was a lack of solid evidence for either side of the debate, which only opened the door for speculation and fear-mongering. For many, the idea of a lab leak became tied to a broader political agenda. If it were true, it would suggest that China's negligence and deliberate actions caused the pandemic. This narrative fueled nationalistic sentiments and created a false flag scenario where some people saw China as the scapegoat for a global crisis. The problem was that this theory was being pushed forward without clear, verifiable evidence. In fact, many experts, including the World Health Organization, dismissed the lab leak theory as highly unlikely. Now, let's dive into the Daniel Pipe's analytical tools. Knowledge of history. Looking at the historical context of past pandemics, we can see that viruses like SARS and Ebola were naturally occurring and originated from animals. The lab leak theory doesn't follow this historical pattern or consider the scientific understanding of how viruses typically evolve and spread, making this theory less likely. Obscurity of evidence. Much of the support for the lab leak theory comes from vague or circumstantial evidence. For example, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, being located close to the initial outbreak site, is often referenced, but this doesn't prove that the virus came from the lab. This kind of evidence is too unclear and speculative to draw solid conclusions from. Inconsistencies. There are a lot of inconsistencies within the lab leak theory itself. Some conspiracy theorists claim that the virus was accidentally released. Others argue that it was bioengineered as a biological weapon. These conflicting claims often add confusion and show that the theory lacks any unified, consistent narrative. Psychological analysis. The lab leak theory thrives on cognitive biases. For instance, confirmation bias plays a big role. People tend to believe something more when they hear it repeatedly or when it matches their existing fears and worries. So, when media outlets repeat the same talking points about a lab leak theory with little to no evidence or solid fact, it preys on their fears. The theory also feeds into the fear of the unknown. People are more likely to believe in something sinister, like a lab leak, because it offers an explanation that feels more controlled or intentional than the randomness of a natural virus. Sociological or cultural anthropology. From a cultural and political standpoint, the lab leak theory fits neatly into a narrative of nationalism and distrust. The idea of China being responsible for the pandemic is appealing to some because it allows them to blame others and confirm their national identity. Social media and political influencers also play a big role in amplifying the lab leak theory. In today's digital age, misinformation spreads quickly, and echo chambers form where like-minded individuals reinforce each other's beliefs and create a social dynamic where the theory can survive, regardless of the facts. Consumer applications. The lab leak theory has even made its way into popular culture. Whether it's discussed in media outlets, books, or documentaries, the idea has been repeatedly brought up in ways that make it seem like a credible possibility. This contributes to the ongoing conversation and to some extent normalizes the theory in public discussion. Conclusion. From the early days of the pandemic, when Tom Cotton first suggested it, to the current debates, this theory has been amplified by social media and political rhetoric. The scientific community, on the other hand, has found little evidence to support the lab leak theory, pointing instead to a natural origin of the virus. Thank you for watching.